You know those problems your algebra teacher keeps giving you where they give you 2 points and they're like, hey, find the slope. Or they give you 2 points and they're like, give me the slope-intercept form. Well, you probably learned how to do it, figured it out, did great on a problem like this. And then all of a sudden you get problems like this and all of a sudden you don't know what you're doing. You're losing track and you're like, what's different? I'm here to teach you the difference between this problem versus this problem when writing slope-intercept form out. We need to be able to do both. Now this is level 1, this is level 2. Let's talk about why. Okay, so right here, we have to find the slope and the y-intercept in order to write slope-intercept form of an equation. The first thing we're going to find is up to you. On this problem, you can go and find the slope by doing y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. If this doesn't make sense to you, I'm going to write it down off to the side. Hopefully your teacher has already covered slope formula with you. And it just looks like this, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. What does all this mean? Well, that's an x, that's a y, that's an x, that's a y. This is the first coordinate, so you label it with 1s. This is our second ordered pair, so we're going to label it with 2s. Now, if you look, I just say, what's my y2? That goes there. What's my y1? That goes there. You're basically taking this number minus this number on top over this number minus this number on bottom, so you can find your change in y over your change in x. So let's do that. Let's put 8 right here, 3 right here, 0 right there, and 6 right here. We are going to find the slope. So 8 minus 3 gives me 5. 0 minus 6 would give me a negative 6. A positive divided by a negative comes out as a negative. So negative 5/6 is our slope. I'm going to label that right over here so that I have it when I'm ready to use it. Not quite ready to write the whole equation out because I don't have the b. I don't have the y-intercept quite yet, but here's the good news. If you look at these 2 points, you are given the y-intercept. How do I know one of them is a y-intercept? Because what we know about a y-intercept is that it's always going to be on the y-axis. If I place a dot right here, I already know something about that dot. I have no idea what the y value is. I don't know if it's up at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or whatever. But by golly, I know I'm not at 5 for x. I'm not at 4. I'm not at 3. I'm not at 2. I'm not at 1. When I'm on this line, x has to be a 0. It just has to be, okay? So if you are given a coordinate with a 0 for x, you can just steal the other number. The y value is going to be your y-intercept. But this will only work if the x value of the coordinate is a 0. So right now we know the slope. We know the y-intercept. So it's time for me to write y equals mx plus b out. Slope goes where m is. Negative 5/6 with an x attached. And then the b is the constant at the end, and it's our y-intercept, so plus 8. All right, so if you can tackle a problem like that, that's great. But here's the news. The problem over here doesn't have a coordinate with a 0 in it. So how in the world are we supposed to find that point on the y-axis? Because you need to write down the point on the y-axis. It's part of slope-intercept form. The whole reason we have slope-intercept form is so that we can mark the starting point immediately, quickly. We want to know where we begin. Okay, so now, problem like this. What are the 2 things we got to figure out? We already talked about it. We need a slope and we need a y-intercept. So I'm going to make a little note, slope. Once we figure it out, we'll copy it down so we have it tracked. I'm going to write down y-intercept. And again, once I figure that out, we'll write it down. And then once we get the 2 pieces of information, we're going to write this bad boy out. So we're going to find the slope first. We need the slope in order to find the y-intercept. So again, I'm going to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that's going to be 6 minus negative 3 over 5 minus 2. I work this out. 6 minus a negative 3. You're subtracting a negative, so you're really just adding. 6 minus negative 3 is 9. 5 minus 2 is going to give me 3. 9 divided by 3 equals 3. Put a box around it. Take that information and write it down for your slope. Okay, so we know the slope is 3. I could start my equation. I could say y equals 3x I just don't know what goes here at the end where B is supposed to be. So how do I find B when I don't have a coordinate that starts with a 0? It's pretty simple. Y equals 3x plus B. I have an unknown, I have an unknown, I have an unknown. 3 variables, all representing values that I just haven't put numbers in for yet. And I can't solve for B if there's other variables in the equation. Okay, think about that. If I gave you x plus y equals 8, well, you could say x is 2, but that would mean y is 6. But what if x was a 3? Y can't be 6 anymore. There's a combination of numbers that work. I could say 1 and 7, that would work. I could say 3 and 5, that would work. I could say 2 and 6, that would work. Okay, so when there are multiple variables, there's multiple answers. Well, we can't have multiple answers here. There's only one number in the world that we can put right there to give the correct equation for a line that goes through those 2 points. There's a very specific y-intercept that we got to find. So what we need to do is get rid of x and y. You can't have b, x, and y if you're just trying to solve for b. You have to have b, and the rest of it has to be numbers. So what in the world can I change x to? What could I change y to? Well, if you peek on up here, these coordinates are x, y coordinates. And that's an x, y coordinate. So it's your choice. You could use 2, -3. Your 2, if you're using this coordinate, your 2 would go right where the x is. Your -3, which is a y, would go right where the y is. I don't want to use a negative, so I'm just going to use these positive values, even though they're larger. Doesn't matter in my opinion. I'd rather just use positive numbers. So I'm going to put 5 right there where x goes. 3 times 5 plus b equals y. Remember, when I use 5 for x, my y has to be a 6. And then I just work this out. 5 times 3 or 3 times 5, both of them are going to give you 15 plus b equals 6. I'm going to take 15 away to cancel it. Take 15 away from 6. 6 minus 15 is going to take you all the way back to -9. So if you think about this, I've got b equals -9. So now that I know my b, I know my y-intercept. It's -9. It's time for me to write my final equation, so I can just erase this b and the plus sign. Because my y-intercept came out to be negative, I'm going to say -9. And that right there would be your equation for a line that goes through those 2 points. Okay, so sometimes you're given nice numbers. X is 0. All you got to do is find slope, steal the information. Sometimes you're not given a point where x is 0. You got to find the slope, put it in the equation, and then change the x and the y to 2 numbers that you steal from the coordinate. Keep that a b, solve for it, and then plug that information where it goes when you're done. Hopefully this makes sense. Study hard and good luck on your upcoming test.